Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Beer with the Boss. Yes, that podcast where a guy and his boss have a beer together and talk about technology. We also can talk about other topics. You just need to let us know what topics you want us to talk about. So leave your comment in the platform or on the platform you're listening to this podcast. Go to our social media. You can access the link in the description of this episode and let us know what you want us to talk about. I'm Rodrigo Matos. I work at Webera, and today here with me again is my boss, Joel Zamboni. Hey, Joel. How are you doing? What beer are you drinking today?
Hey, Rodrigo. How are you? Welcome, guys. So here we are again for one more episode of our podcast. Today I'm drinking a beer called Carlsberg. It's a Danish beer. I feel like it's a sweet and bitter beer. Like it's a Pilsner, right? But at the beginning it's very sweet and then there's a little bitter in the end. But it's good. It's not bitter as a IPA or something. But for a Pilsner, I think it has this flavor a little bit.
I'm drinking a Brazilian one, but I was going to ask you if you've been to Denmark already. Have you ever been there? Yeah.
No.
Carlsberg is everywhere.
Yeah, I'm planning to do, not to Denmark, I'm planning to do this trip to close to the North Pole as possible, probably Norway or Iceland, to see the Northern Lights.
Oh, that's a dream, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a dream.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm drinking a Brazilian beer called Baden-Baden. It's it's a brewery from Campos do Jordão, if I'm not mistaken, in São Paulo.
Yeah.
And this one is a fancy one. I thought it was fancy because it's a passion fruit IPA. I've never had that before, but yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Kind of bitter, but yeah, 6.4% alcohol. It's good. Not that strong.
Mine is not that strong today. But I remember I went to the factory, actually, the Baden-Baden factory in Brazil once. Yeah, it was a pretty good experience.
Oh, that's cool.
But they were very small at the time. They were like independent, still independent. I don't know if they've been bought by someone already.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have to read here. Probably, right? Because it's a very famous beer. They have many different labels and yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well, but anyway, thanks. Today, the idea for us to talk about cloud native. And well, this is something that for Webera we're very fond of this subject. So I'd like to ask you to explain to our listeners what exactly cloud native means.
So if we think about the cloud, right? Cloud became mainstream like maybe 7 years ago, 7 years, maybe 2015, 2013, something like that. Cloud became mainstream. But the idea with the cloud was basically you have a better way to use somebody else's server. So it's still machines, right? The machines are there. You have scalability. You don't have to pay up front. You have those immense availability. You can build a machine like with a sister machine on the same network on another data center, right? Without having to put one server on the stack on a rack or anything. That's a lot of power if you think about that we didn't have before. But in a way, it's not used by the application on top because you're still running a monolith, you're still running the same application that you used to have. It's just they are now on a smarter place with much better infrastructure, with access to as a software, not as a hacking stack. So that was the cloud. So now there's other things that we can improve upon the cloud. So that becomes, okay, we have all this availability, but our applications are not high available as possible. And then people start to design new ways to deploy application. That new way was like breaking the monoliths, having only way, like if you're having a stack of applications, right, that are much smaller now because they are all decoupled, they still have to generate logs, so you have a shared infrastructure of logs. Then if they are not really part of like you cannot store anything on them, like they are stateless because they are a bunch of small things that just execute a problem, like microservice, things like that. So they have to be more reliable in a way that they can be deployed as many times in different environments without changing the code and things like that. Then those standards starts to flourish, right? We have containers, which allow us to have the same code built and deployed across different environments without having to be rebuilt, and load balancers and Kubernetes, which is orchestrated, all those things. So in a way, cloud native applications are just a better way to use that, or the right way to use that flexibility that the cloud initially brought. So you break down the original applications that you used to have in a data center, and now use that flexibility to deploy a new kind of application which can be prepared to the load balance, to the whole stack that was created with the cloud. So kind
That's
of
awesome.
cloud native.
That's awesome. I imagine, I guess, many companies still don't approach their processes as like cloud native, right? Their applications are still like monolith and things like that. How hard is it to migrate? Is it if you're not cloud, if you don't have a cloud native application, migrating to a cloud native model is possible? Is it?
Yes, I know. Like I mentioned to someone who we were talking lead the other day, it was like he says to me, "Oh, can you deploy any application that I have on the cloud?" It's like, yes and no. I can deploy a monolith in the cloud, but they'll not have any benefit. So what are you looking for? You're looking
Just
for
stored in the cloud.
Yeah, you're looking to store data. Yeah, it's cheaper. Maybe most of the cases we can make it cheaper than buy a server, build a rack and stack, and have the power, the network cabling, everything. You'll be cheaper. But also will not have any benefits, right? So there's no really benefits of, okay, let's shut down this application now. No, you cannot. It can be a hybrid way, right? So instead of thinking about hybrid infrastructure where you have parts of your infrastructure on your data center and part on the cloud, you have the architecture of your application partially on cloud applications and partially on cloud native applications, where you have your monolith executing most of the tasks, but you start to breaking the big application in smaller ones. And then those smaller ones can still access the core application and deliver data, and use the data, but they are start to be responsible for parts of the original job. And then you can start to break down. I believe that's a better strategy than you do like a big bang strategy where you write a new application from scratch and then deploy, unless you have a very small application. But if you have a big monolith, I rather try to do in parts so you can start to have benefits. An example, there is a critical function on the core application that you benefit to have it high available. You can start doing, if it's possible, right? You can start doing by that function, and then you start to see the benefits of cloud native application. The other thing is like being cloud native is not just microservices, right? It's like we had an internal discussion and we have with our new customers, like it's not only you create your applications or microservices, it's your build a container, and the definition of the container is not that you have to rebuild the container for each environment that you deploy, is that you have to use the same container, and the environment variables will change your application to behave differently, like from production from development to production. So the idea is that you'll be faster to deploy those things. You'll be faster to test those things. That's what is really about the cloud native architecture. It's not about being slow or being like have to rebuild your application again to deploy in another environment. No, that's not the case. Like you have to write thinking, so what I'm saying is like microservice does not mean cloud native. because they're much earlier than cloud itself. But like those old, like when we used to do microservices, and then you used to have those directory or share directories, things like that, where you register the web service so the other applications could use the web service. Those things are not cloud native. It's like the independence, like the of each microservice, that's cloud native. Being small, being stateless, all those things are cloud native. So it's not only breaking down the application, but also adopting a new way to deploy the applications.
It will also end up being cultural to the company, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like cultural transformation. Cool. Well, I'm curious to ask you about the challenges that a company would face once they decide to approach cloud migration. Do you have like any? Of course, you have it, but what would be your list of challenges that a company would face?
The first thing that they will try to do when they do cloud native, right, is hire a DevOps guy.
All right.
So, and many people change their title from sysadmin to DevOps. And that does not mean that the guy knows DevOps, either cloud native. So that is we are all in the same boat in here. It's like we hire many DevOps engineers who they are just sysadmins, right? So we have to teach them how to be a DevOps engineer, how to think about, how to, like we were talking in other podcasts about the value stream, right? How do you measure your work that your work is causing a good impact? Is reducing time to deploy, is breaking the size of the packages. You cannot deploy big bangs and be okay with that. You have to, that's not cloud native. So it's more like you mentioned in the previous question. There is a cultural change first to think about. Okay, I will adopt a cloud native posture. Then I have to find the right people to work, find or train. Right, you have to. In our case, Rebera, we are a Cloud Native member foundation, Cloud Native Foundation member. So we try to be as connected as possible with the community. And vote on some of the applications that you use. We have internal adoption technology roadmap. So we try to be connected with the community because it's also new. So right. So many things are changing. Like an example, we joke that the things that we do today are not the same that we were doing 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When there was like many things that we changed on our workflow. Is a learning revolution, right? So that's cloud native, because we are always one of the 5 pillars of DevOps is monitoring, right? So we are always trying to learn from what is happening, and with that learning, it's not just we learn and do nothing. There's like, if you go on the Cloud Native CNCF Foundation, if you go there on the website, there are hundreds of tools in incubation and other levels because people are monitoring and learning what's happening, and they develop a new solution for that problem, and they end up creating a new tool because it's also automation. So it's really a very inspiring community, and they are creating. So in the end, there will be challenges, but I think the community and the tools and the people on the game are good. So they are solving a lot of problems that are different than the problems that computers solve in the past, right? We used to joke about that computers came up to solve problems that we didn't even know that we had, right?
Yeah.
But cloud native is kind of, we have these problems, we have to fix them.
Yeah, and the amazing thing is that the community is there to help you approach this, and community. We are in the community, and we want as many people as possible doing the same. So they're there to support whoever wants to approach this, right? Awesome, Joel. Thank you so much again, man. That was awesome. I don't have any more beers, so I'm gonna have to go and grab another one.
All right.
Well, I'd love to do that next week as well if you're up to it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah?
Let's do it.
Awesome.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. And we'll be back next week. Let us know what you thought of this episode. We'd love to hear your feedback. And, well, again, we'll be back with a new topic, a new beers. So see you then. Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.